Empower who? Empower me!
All right. So, all right. So our guest of our very first attempt at a podcast and recording. Who are you?
Well, I go by Jasmine Rice. That's my artist name. Yeah.
Hold on, spell that and say it out loud. Let me hear.
Jasmine Rice, like the food, like that you cook. So yeah.
Why Jasmine Rice? I'm curious.
So when I was in art school, I had all my friends were like African, because there wasn't a lot of like Black students at the Savannah campus at SCAD. So they would like joke around with me and they would just be like, Jasmine Rice, Jasmine Rice. And I had to do this project for like a computer class. And I just used Jasmine Rice and I got it tatted on my arm.
What? Let me see.
Stuck with me.
Oh, I'm definitely taking a picture of that.
Yeah, it's the jasmine flower and then rice. Yeah. I don't know. I just ran with it and just everybody kept calling me Jasmine Rice at like SCAD, and it was like a thing that like wouldn't go away.
Oh, so you got your permanent nickname. Yeah. Well, it's permanent now because you tattooed it. All right, so Jasmine or Rice or Mrs. Rice, I don't know what to call you. What? How long were you in care?
So the first time I went to foster care, I was about 6 until I was about 12. And then I went back home, didn't work out, went back into care when I was like 13, and then I aged out of care until I went to college. So
you say you came into care around 6,
mm-hmm.
and then you went back home, and you said that didn't work out. Like
mm-hmm.
what happened to make it not work out?
So my mom and my dad were kind of like drug dealers, strippers. So like that was their lifestyle. And my mom struggled with drug addiction and alcohol. What is it? She had an alcohol problem.
Alcoholism?
Yeah, from like doing a lot of drugs. So she went to alcohol and she just couldn't handle it. So like within a year of being home, I went right back into foster care.
Oh, wow.
And I was like running away, skipping school. I was getting in like a lot of trouble. So
you skipped school at 6?
No. When I went back home the second time, I was just like wild. I was a bad kid. So they were like, what's going on at home? And once they started like noticing that I wasn't going to class and stuff like that, my mom just kind of couldn't really take care of us. So we went right back into care.
Interesting. And so what happened? What happened to your father? Wasn't able to take care of you either?
No, my father is like really deep. He just wasn't really around because I feel like because of the drugs. It could be other things, but like I will only see my dad when he would like introduce me to like one of my sisters, which is like 20 of them. So he just out
20
here.
20 sisters?
I feel like I got a lot of, probably more than that.
Really?
He's Jamaican. Jamaicans got a lot of kids.
Well, so I know from the group home that I stayed in, there was one of my brothers. He took the cake because he was the oldest of 8 or 9, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was a whole tribe of them. I probably bring him on to talk about his story too, but 20.
Probably more than that, honestly. Like I just
have you met them all?
No, when I was a little girl, my dad would come around a lot when I was like young. I don't even know how I remember this because I was like 3 or 2. He would just always be like, "This is your sister," and it would just be like random little girls. And I was like the baby for a long time. And then it was just like all these random little girls like coming to my grandma's house. So it was just like, I don't know how many sisters I have. But they're all girls. He has all girls.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like him because he can only have girls. I I don't think I have any nephews.
It's a Jamaican thing. I really feel like it's a Jamaican thing.
Really?
Got good genes.
Wow. Or the girls gene. What is it? The X or what is it? X or the Y?
I think it's the X.
I think it is the X.
The X. Well, that X marker is tough. Like we just don't make it.
No boys. No, he has no boys. Interesting.
So was there like any other relatives that could have taken care of you, or
yeah, so the second time when I went back into foster care, I had an aunt, which was my mom's older sister. She tried to take care of us before, like, when I was getting in trouble. So she tried to like take on me and my brother, but when we were younger. But the abuse, like, my mom was like, because the drugs, she was abusing him, and then my brother started abusing me, and my aunt was just like, I can't deal with this. Mm-hmm. So she pretty much that's how we went to foster care the first time when I was 6. Mm-hmm. And then the second time, it wasn't a question that anybody else could take care of us, because on my mom's side of the family, it's like a lot of like people being adopted, abuse, drug addiction, and like people struggling with alcohol abuse. So, you know.
So I guess there weren't any services that were given to your family to help, or
no, because my grandma and a lot of people in my family struggle with mental health, like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. So they were like my grandma, like for as long as I can remember, she never worked because of her mental health issues, and I had a lot of family like that. So the government they like when we were younger, like my mom used to take us there a lot when she couldn't take care of us, but legally you can't do that because she was like unfit or like not stable enough. She didn't have enough room, or it was always something like that. So the only people that was reliable was like my mom's older siblings, but they had their own kids, and it just didn't work out. Yeah, and like a lot of my mom's friends, they were all just like sketch. Like we would try to go stay with them, like when I was running away a lot, because you know, like there's this culture and Black culture, just send the kids somewhere else, especially me, because I was so bad, and it was just sketch, and I would just get in more trouble, and they would just be like, all right, you gotta go back to your mom's house because you wildin'.
And so what was that here? Because you say your dad is from Jamaica, correct?
Yeah.
So did you come into care here or like here? I mean, in America, Georgia.
Yeah. I'm first generation American. Yeah,
okay.
So.
You're first generation American?
Yeah. Well, on my dad's side, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay.
They all are just mixed with something.
Have you ever tried to go back to? Because I know a lot of times people when they transition from care or even before, like they're always trying to go back home and be with their family. You didn't?
No,
try
my
to do
brother, my oldest brother, was like that because he had like this weird relationship with my mom. But since I was such a bad kid, like getting in gangs and fights and stuff like that, my mom had like this animosity, like, you're going to be just like me. So she always like leaned more towards my oldest brother. Mm-hmm. So when he aged out of care, he signed himself out and went back to take care of my mother, which now he still struggles with homelessness and like the repercussions of signing himself out of care and not going to school or not taking advantage of those IOP benefits. Mm-hmm. And I just saw that and I was just like, nah, I'm gonna have to do something else because like I don't at that age, being young, having all that resentment towards my mother, that was just not gonna be an option for me. Like me and this woman fought, so it was just like, nah, you got it. So seeing him go through that, because he's 2 years older than me, I was just like,
So what was I'm jumping around on the questions or whatever, but I think like so I know there was a point in my, I guess after I transitioned from care where I was like, yeah, I don't need to be around my mother. I don't need to be involved with my mother.
Yeah.
What was that point for you?
When I was like 6, like. But I knew my mom was bipolar, because like the mood swings.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother, I knew she had mental health problems, but it never like clicked for me because it was just like normal. Like she just was normal. Like my mom was just normal. Like it wasn't like, you know.
You didn't know any different.
Yeah. Besides when I was going to foster care, they would say things that made me go, And now I'm looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, Shorty was crazy because she was like bipolar type 2. Like she was literally like going through a lot. But my grandmother, she didn't show a lot of symptoms because she was on so much medication. And like going in, when I went into care both times, I was on a lot of medication. Like I was taking like 8 different pills, and they're just like
at 6.
Well, when I was 6, it wasn't as many, but when I went in the second time, I had like a lot of behavioral issues. So they was drugging me up, and I didn't know that I was bipolar. I didn't know like what was going on. I just thought, these people are trying to ruin my life. Like these people took me from my home. Like no, like I'm gonna fight everybody. So by the time I was like 14, I was like on a lot of medication to like help me, because the anger management, the classes, I moved around to a lot of different homes. So that like really affected me like in my adult life.
So I'm curious, like for that first experience, like of coming into care, maybe even the second time, because the second time was the permanent time. So tell me about that first experience, the first time, and then we'll go into the second time.
So when I was 6, I just remember like going to live with this random lady, and they was trying to keep me and my brother together. But he's a boy and a girl, and there's like this weird thing in the foster care system where it's like no boys and girls together. So that,
really?
Yeah, like when we were younger, that was a problem. So we were always separated. The second time, it was a little bit more intense because it was like I had to go to a group home because I was like bad. So I went to Jesse's house in Forsyth County. And Forsyth County is not diverse, so I dealt with a lot of racism. Like I was like the only black girl. Like that was the first time I ever experienced that, because when you're in the hood, like I only like, you only see like black people and like, Hispanic people, Latina, like indigenous people. So I never really experienced being around majority of white people or Caucasian people. So that was like a culture shock. Like it was just like whoop, like dramatic. So I was wilding. I was like, what? Did you just call me a nigga? So I was fighting even more and getting even more in trouble. So they're like, we're going to try to send her to a more diverse school. So that's when I went to Gwinnett Children.
Shelter?
Not the shelter, but the group home.
Okay, well.
I don't know. I don't remember what it was called, but I went to Mill Creek. And I kind of like calmed down a little bit, but it just kept getting worse because it was like going from a school that's like not really up there to like a school that's like top in sports and like everyone's rich and you're like getting picked up by this big bus, so that was really like hard for me, like to get in the groove of it. But I was so used to moving around a lot because I was just like the bad one, and my brother was always like really stable because he just wanted to go home with my mom. Like whatever he had to do, that was his goal. For me, it was just like, I'm just wilding. I don't know what's going on. I'm taking all this medicine. So that part was really hard to deal with.
Wow. So you said you experienced racism. Like, did you have like anybody that you could definitely confide in that could help you get through that?
No, because I was already in a lot. Like I was already getting in trouble. I was already like had anger issues, and at the time I had mental health issues. But I didn't know I was bipolar at that point. Like I was like 14, so I didn't understand what I was going through. So it was really difficult. Like if I would try to go talk to him about it, it was more so like it was more like we understand that you're having issues, but you have issues. So it was kind of like always like swept under the rug because like I was known for fighting and starting things and just like.
So your past preceded you, like
yeah, and I was still going through it, so it was like really difficult. So it just got to a point where it was like, if y'all don't move me from Forsyth County, I'm gonna fight everybody. Like I'm going to shut this shit down. So they kicked me out. Like they were like, you gotta go. Like you doing too much.
Wow. And did were there any of the young kids that was there that you could confide in, or that was like?
Not really. I was pretty introverted. Like I would have friends here and there, but as I got older, it was just harder to connect with people because I didn't like the fact that I was in foster care. So it was more like when I'm at school, I'm a different person. When I'm at the home, I'm a different person. Mm-hmm. So it was like juggling personalities. So it was really difficult to like, even now, it's really difficult to like build like strong relationships where I'm super close with someone. I could feel like I could tell them everything, which is a lot, to have a friend telling them. Even now, like in my adult life, I find that some people can't handle that. Some people can't understand that type of trauma. So that was always, even still now, difficult to like have one friend just to kind of like confide in. So
just a vent, like
yeah. So they put me in therapy, like they kept me in therapy, but that was like not working because you talk to the therapist, you tell them some wild shit, then they go and tell your caseworker.
Right? Yeah.
No, it was a setup. It was a setup.
So it was. I want to come back to that, but had you heard about foster care before you came into foster care?
No, I didn't know anything about it. No, but when I knew about it because I was in so young. Mm-hmm. Even when I was 6, I really didn't know what was going on. Like I'm 6 years old. I'm just like, why am I always living with these random people? Why is it like 10 people in one house? Like. Why can't I go like sleep over my friend's house? Things like that. Like it doesn't really stick. But by the time I was like 10, 11, 12, I was like, okay, that was what was going on at the time. So
okay, so you mentioned therapy, and I know. And I know that is kind of like the thing that most youth hate. You got to go see a therapist.
My God!
Damn it! Why? Let me figure out what I'm going to tell him or her so they can get out of my head. So you didn't feel like because I ideally, like as a kid, I know when you hear therapy, you think confidential, and I can talk to this person about whatever I want to, and that junk won't get back around. And so, what was your first impression like when you told this person your deepest secret, and then it got back around to you? What was that? What was that like?
Well, when I first went to foster care, because of the abuse and the like emotional neglect, I didn't really feel like anything was wrong with me because I was so young and I just didn't understand a lot of things. Mm-hmm. They had me working with a therapist that works with like children, I guess, like children with trauma. Mm-hmm. And just looking back on it, I understand now what was going on, but they was trying to get me to like pretty much tell them what was going on with my mother and my family for the court case. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really feel like, I feel like that was always a thing with therapy because it's like, I don't trust y'all.
So you felt like it was a setup to get your mom.
Yeah.
And so they used the child against the mom. I know. Yeah.
And I never, like, when I was younger, I never testified in court, but my brother did. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's why he always felt the need to go back and live with my mom because he testified against her.
And he didn't know. He didn't
know. But they didn't do me because I was so young. I was like 6. Mm-hmm. He was like 8 or 9. So,
And I know now, for I know at least for Georgia, every youth is supposed to have an attorney. Did you have an attorney back then?
No. They just put me in therapy and they're like, all right, tell us what happened. Like 10 different times they wanted me to tell them what happened. So they had like different stories and they would try to get like different things out of me. Because my mom was on trial for like a while because she like really beat my brother up. But I really felt like she was in her bipolar episodes.
Manic?
She was extremely manic. Like my mom would go through, because I go through it now, so I kind of like outside looking in, but she was like extremely manic, and then with the drugs, Shorty would just be tweaking, you know, like she would just get really upset about like the smallest things, and it just wasn't normal. Like it would be like, oh, you left ketchup on the counter, like I'm gonna punish you. You stand in the wall and hold books, like certain things like that. That I'm looking back on, I'm like, that's not something a normal mother would get upset and like punish you in that way. So that's pretty much what the trial was about. Like, why did she have kids and she had all these mental issues?
Go ahead. Did you have a question?
Now that you're older, the case manager that you were working with, do you feel like she made, or what impact did she make in your life, negative or positive?
Honestly, from both times out to now, aged out, the only foster case manager I had, which is Wanika Thompson, who helped me go to art school and is now supporting me. She's the only one that I've ever had that was consistent. I've always had like a case manager for a week and then it's a different person. And then some I would talk on the phone, but I'll never meet them. And some of them I will meet them once and then it's a different one. So that was always the narrative with the case managers. Like it was never just one person that I had dealing with my case. It was like two, and then it would be like one, and then it's another one, and it'll be like even like when I was aging out of foster care before I met Wanika Thompson, some of them would even email me and be like, hey, you know, I'm your new case manager, and I would never meet from them. I would call them, try to get support, and it just wasn't a relationship because I guess I'm aware of like they have other kids, and I know at one point they were like understaffed. I remember that when I was younger that they didn't have enough case managers, so they like moved my region because I was in for so long. So they was moving kids around to different regions to kind of balance out the kids and the case manager. Because even I remember one case manager who was really good to me when I was younger, Renee Loudermilk. She had me and my brother, but they moved her to another region because she was so good. But she still like was trying to keep in contact with me because she knew that I was in Forsyth County and I was being mistreated, even though I was like a bad kid. So case managers, I did not have a good relationship.
So about how many? Because people think like when we go out and do trainings and things like that, people think that we over exaggerate. And when I say we, Georgia Empowerment or what have you, how many case managers do you think that you had?
Oh my God!
Even the ones that you didn't see.
Oh my God! Since I was 6. More than 200. Like more.
That's impossible.
Probably. Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 24.
Okay.
Until like, it was so many different ones, and then the case that I had. It was such a long case that it was just like no one wanted to stay on it because it was so long. And then it was like me and my brother, and then me and my brother would have a different one, and then they would like change it because they want to keep me and my brother together. It was like no stable communication. So it was so many people that I would see, and I would have to tell them my story all over again. And then it's like, oh wait, we gave you and your brother 2 different case managers, so we have to give you a whole new case manager so we can keep the same one. I remember like they would lose our files, and then when I would transfer schools, they would lose my transcripts because I had so many different case managers because of how long I've been in the system. Honestly, maybe 200 is over exaggerated. It might be over exaggerated, so maybe like 100 around that. But it was a lot.
Is that just even with them changing hands so many times?
Yes, like even when I was in alternative school, I had problems getting back to regular school because they didn't have my school transcripts. And plus, I got No Child Left Behind in middle school because I was getting in trouble and moving around a lot. So I wasn't passing anything. I didn't learn anything in middle school. I did not learn anything. They just oh, you're in foster care, so we're just gonna take you to the next grade. So I struggled a lot, in middle school. And then they would lose my transcript, and they'll be like, well, since we lost your transcript, we're just going to let you go to the next grade. And then I was going to different schools. I've been to, so many different elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. That was... And I don't want to blame me having a lot of case managers for why I struggled in school and moved around a lot, but that definitely played a part in it because... when you're especially a child who has behavioral problems and mental health problems, you get more attention, but also it's not really dealt with. It's just oh, well, this person can't deal with it. Give it to the next person because they dealt with this person. So it's it never ends. It never ended.
And so, how many placements did you have?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I don't know. It was so many. When I was younger, it was easy to stay in one place for a while.
Because you was a little cute baby.
Yeah, I was cute. I was innocent. But the issue was me and my brother being separate. That was a big issue. And even when caseworkers would come and see me, I'm like, yo, I haven't seen my brother in 2 years. What's going on? So...
What?
Yeah, it was really difficult. So they would try to move me closer to him. But then when he was younger, he was going through his mental thing. So they would move him because of his mental state. Mm-hmm. And, it was just, I really don't know how many homes I've been in. Group homes, a lot. Probably all of them. Every group home in Fulton County, I've probably been in.
Wow.
And then I would fight and then get kicked out. But when I was older, when I went in the second time, I couldn't stay in a foster home because of my behavioral problem and my mental health. No one wanted to deal with it.
So they didn't have any specialized foster homes?
No. When I kind of was okay, I want to go to art school. Before I graduated from college, I stayed in one foster home with my brother, but it was really bad. The lady, she just was mistreating my brother, and you already know me with my past. I let that old Jasmine crank out, and I tweaked on Shorty. Then they moved us to another placement, and then I stayed there until I went to college.
So what happened to the person that abused your brother? Did they do anything, or do you know?
I know it was really serious because we were younger. That was the first time we were in foster care. Mm-hmm. It had something to do with the staff that was mistreating and touching the boys. Mm-hmm. So they shut down the whole group home. And I never knew what happened. My brother doesn't talk about it. No one really talks about it. You can't Google it and find out about it. I just knew about it because of my caseworker who told me that the reason why I can't see my brother is because there was some funny business going down at the group home, and they had to move him again. So I had to wait even longer to see my brother, even though I hadn't seen him in some years. Yeah.
And so that was probably one of the things that I probably should have wrote down because I wanted to talk about that. So you mentioned two different things, but a lot of times kids are the main ones that get in trouble for responding to a situation, even though they don't necessarily know any other way because they haven't been taught, maybe because they've been moved around so much or what have you. Mm-hmm. But the fighting of a staff and how that affected your future, so you told the cause, but how did that affect you, as far as placements goes?
Well, now being in college, even though I really had a lot of animosity towards being in college, but it's I didn't have any other choice. I don't think people understand that. It's I could have did the IOP housing, I could have did the certification, I could have just took the easy way out, but it was I saw college, especially when I went to art school, someone like me and where I'm from, that is not a thing. So me being me and just having my personality and just thinking and seeing my brother and learning from him, being stable even now is a constant struggle. And also having this rebellious energy towards authority is like a thing. And I even see how I respond to teachers, just people older than me. I see that little girl in me who is just like, you don't know anything. Like, you know? So, and also just college really helped me understand like the stability in those relationships and building those relationships, because I feel like when I was growing up, I did not understand what that was. Like, even with my mom, even with my immediate family, like, I just don't understand how to build those relationships and how to deal with authority, whether it's you're being mistreated or whether a friend or someone is mistreating you. It's almost like you're so used to and accept those, just being silent about it, just kind of dealing with it on your own. So that's why it's kind of like, oh, just go to therapy, it'll fix it. But it actually doesn't, because it's like an ongoing struggle within myself. So it's like, I know a lot of foster care youth just deal with it in other ways and cope with it in other ways, which is rebellion, which is going against the grain, which is, you know, you're so sheltered for so long. So when you get out into the real world, you going butt wild. You wilding out. You going crazy. You partying. You doing all, you know, all the things that young people do. But it's to a more extreme extent, because there's so much meaning behind it that it's just like, it's like a black hole.
Empower who? Empower me!